card up.
Well, good evening and welcome to everybody. First time in 7 months. Lovely to see you all. We're not officially gone live yet. Well, we are live, but we haven't officially gone anywhere. Just quick hello. Hello, Dave and Simon. I've got your note here, Simon, so I'll be addressing that a little later on. Hi, Jennifer, and welcome. William Kenny. No, he's going to be chucked out. No way. Rob Jones. Hiya and good evening. Doug Miller. Good evening, Doug, and welcome. Copperell Woodturning, good evening and welcome to you. Pete Twisted Trees, no, I'm not bothering with him either. Copperell.
Copperell is Rob, by the way.
Oh, Rob. Hello, Rob. Yeah, it's been so long, I've forgotten everybody's names, actually. Norman Greenwell, good evening, Norman, and welcome. How are you? I think that's about it. Oh, no, Adrian Olson. Hiya, Adrian. Good evening and welcome to you. And Doug Bennett, good evening to you. Fred Gilliver, good evening and welcome. And Martin Dickinson, good evening to you. From the Scottish borders. Oh, you got a friend on then, Brian.
Yeah.
And Philip J, good evening and welcome to you as well. Colin Izzard, hiya Colin, and welcome. Mike Evans, good evening. Roy's the boy, hiya Roy, and welcome to you. And Richard Reed, good evening and welcome to you as well. And Paul Clark. Terry Bartlett, good evening, Terry, and welcome. John M, good evening and welcome. I have a confession to make. I got my technical know-how in a twist today, and thanks to Pete, I got it sorted. So the correct link to this has only been up about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. So I apologise for that. So long I've forgotten how to sort it out. Lucy, good evening and welcome to you. Clint at Wood Dancers, good evening. And I think that's covered everybody at the moment. When we actually start in about 4 minutes, I'll bring my trusty earworms in. And I have... Hello, Michelle. How are you? Do you know where Brian is? I've got a few questions that I've been asked via Messenger over the last week, so I'll be addressing those. Got too many glasses on there. I'll be addressing those first, and then if anybody has any questions, my trusty earworms will be keeping an eye on the chat, and they will relay them to me when I've finished doing the one I'm doing, or even relay it in the middle like they normally do. So, Andy, good evening, Andy, the Valley Woodturner. How are you? And welcome.
That's Lucy's husband, by the way, just in case you don't.
All right, Lucy. Good evening, Lucy. Norman Adrian. Oh, that's what I call very quick typing. That is from Mr. Doug.
Yeah, no, he's been in about 20 minutes typing that.
Quick question, Roy's boy. What am I doing today? No idea. It's whatever questions come up in the chat. I've got a couple, 2 or 3 here. And if I can demonstrate the answer, that's the whole idea. Not just with me, but the earworms. They're all accomplished turners, so you get loads of points of view. If you've got any questions, we'll do our very best to answer them as fully as we possibly can.
So the challenge is, Roy, you've got to try and get Mike into as much trouble as you can in the next hour or so.
That's not a problem. A chalice, yeah. I don't want to spend too much time turning a specific piece. It's more about the individual parts of turning if people have a difficulty with, or if they want a bit of advice, not just from me, as I say, from the chat and indeed from the other earworms. That's the sort of the main idea of tonight, is to sort of have a nice question and answer, and hopefully allay some of the problems that some of you might be having, or even just get another take on something that you know what you're doing, but you might think, well, maybe there's another way of doing it, you know. Colin French, good evening, Colin. How are you? That's nice of you to say, mate. Can I demonstrate a goblet stem without breaking it? If there's enough time, at the end, I could have a bash at that Colin. I don't know a lot of hope, but Alan Gibb, good evening, and how are you? And Susie, the Swiss wood turner. Hi, Susie. Good evening and welcome.
Simon has a question for you.
Who has? Sorry.
Simon's new.
Yeah. Yes, Simon.
He says
Oh,
it's just disappeared off my chat. Well, let's call it back down. He says, I often ask myself, what am I doing here?
Yeah, well, I have that.
There's no answer to that, Mike. It just doesn't
I have that
answer.
feeling all the time, actually, Simon. And actually, I doubted Simon's request when he said a mate of his wanted to know something. The name was very familiar to me as a professional turner, well known in the 70s and 80s. And I thought he was just, you know, it's a bit like, you know, asking the question, can I turn a goblet without breaking the stem? I'll try that, actually. It'd be nice. Make a nice change. Martin Dickinson, good question. Looking at all the tools you have on display, how often do you actually use them all? Not often do I use every one of them, but there are times when a specific tool comes to hand. I just I'm a bit of a tool junkie, as most of us are. And I've been turning about 14 years now, so I have a lot of time to collect stuff. And yeah, they all have their place. But as I always say, you can actually do 90% of your turning with 6 turning tools. Even less than 6, actually. Right, okay, it's just gone 7:30. I'm going to bring in the guys, if I can remember how. Here they are. We have the indomitable Pete of Twisted Trees, Pete Ravenscroft, and we have, that's our English contingent. We have an Irish contingent in Will Kelly. Is it Will or William? What would you rather?
Either or. Either
okay,
or.
Mr. Kenny. So from Southern Ireland. And we also have a Scots person, Brian Ousby of Hartwood Turning. Although he lives in Northern Ireland. So we've got a Welshman, an Englishman, an Irishman, and a Scotsman.
There you go.
In there somewhere, isn't there?
We're covering all bases. Bases.
There's a multitude of jokes in there somewhere.
There could be. There could be loads. Okay, I've got a feeling there aren't going to be a lot of people in tonight for various reasons. Number one is because I'm on. So
you've 72 in so far, anyway.
Oh right,
Mike, we've
really?
got a good question now, which you can actually demo with the piece you got on the lathe by taking a little bit off of it.
Yeah. Okay.
From a Hoggy Hogwood.
Hello, Jerry. Sorry. Hi, Jerry.
Said,
how are you?
When
Good
I'm
evening.
turning down
Roger
a
Kent.
spindle.
Good evening. When you what? Sorry.
When he's turning down a spindle with a skew, he sometimes gets chatter on the tool. What is he doing wrong?
Right. Okay. Well, I've got a bigger spindle there, which I can demonstrate that a bit easier. This one is what I'm going to do, being that we've started officially. This question is from. Is he in? No, he's not in yet, is he?
No, he's not in
Richard. Yet. Jack Shack. No, he's not in. Okay, so we'll go past that one. So we'll address Simon Snewing now. Good old Simon. Basically, he was asking how he's finding it difficult to smooth the inside of a hollow form or an open form. Basically, a bowl which hasn't got a narrow opening, but it's got a sort of an undercut side. This is something I was going to take to Newark, but I didn't go. But never, it's an old bowl. It's got cracks and everything, and I made some ridges there to show negative rate scraping. Now you can use, even if the sides come over a bit, you could still use a bowl scraper, or my preferred is a negative rate scraper. Either one I've made, which is like 2 angles. There's two bevels. There's the main bevel and then a relief bevel, which makes it a negative rake. And you can find your own angles on there which suit your turning style the best, but providing the angle is smaller than 90 degrees for the two of them, then you'll have no problem. You'll have a cutting edge. So what I'll do is I'll take that off, what I've got on now. If I just go to the overhead, Okay, I'll take this off. No, I think actually the best one would be that one, wouldn't it? Yeah. So if I take this off, and what I'll do is address Simon's question regarding smoothing the inside of a sort of a hollow form, a bowl, whatever. I don't even know if this is running true. Yes, it is. That's good. Okay, so as I said, what Simon was really asking, this area here, let's just zoom out a little bit. There we go. This area here would have come in a bit more, sort of a bit more closed. Okay.
Do you want to take it, Mike?
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
You want to take us off the screen, mate?
Do I want? Sorry.
What's in the
Get
background?
yourself on full screen.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Put yourself on full screen, mate.
Yeah,
There you
How's
go.
that? Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. There we go.
Yep.
Okay. So you've got. I don't actually own anymore what I would call a straight scraper. This is my negative rake bowl scraper. Okay. Now I use that to do this sort of a job. Even if you can imagine, if this came in more, I could still use that virtually, not an undercut, but you can do it over the 90 degrees straight, if you like. And that's what I tend to use to smooth out bowls and hollow forms, providing the entrance to the hollow form is wide enough for you to get your tool in. Now, on this one, if I just show this on here, this wants to go up very slightly. Okay. So if we take this area here, what I'm doing is just very, very light cuts. Okay. Now the bowl isn't, it's warped a bit. Now can you see how fine those shavings are? I'm hardly taking anything at all. And the lighter you go, the better your result.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that area there, hopefully, I'll just turn that slightly there. Now, that area there is really quite smooth. There's a little ridge there, but what I'm trying to say is that you get a really smooth finish. Now, that's exaggerated. These ridges are exaggerated, obviously. Now, what you could use, you don't need these tools. They're not essential, but they might make life a lot easier. This tool must get one of Stuart Farini's automatic zoom cameras. This is the heavy duty scraper. Now this is very meaty. Use it in the same sort of way on center. Now there are several sizes. There's that size, and this is my preferred size for the majority of jobs, apart from sort of big bowls. Even little bowls, this will do fine.
Actually, that brings a good point in there, Mike.
Yeah,
if
go
you
on.
use the 6mm hollower to
Yeah.
get your basic shape,
Yes.
it's amazing what difference it'll make to those ridges by just switching up to the 8mm cutter.
Yes, indeed.
So
yeah.
Just looking at those two different scrapers you had there with different diameters.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference having a bigger diameter.
It does. The only downside of this, it's not much good for small stuff. This one, I can get into a goblet bowl, anything, and it does the job really, really well. This one, as I'll just show here, if I just zoom in a little bit.
Just before you do that, Mike, Simon's asked you a question. What are the two angles on the large scraper that you used first?
Oh, the bowl scraper. You know, I'm not sure 100%, to be honest with you. As you can see, This, actually, I can zoom in here now. Whoop. As you can see, hopefully, with this, this is what I've been playing around with, okay? Now that angle there is, I would guess, something in the region of 70 degrees. Forget this bit, because I'm not going to waste all that metal there. And this is the grind I've kept to now. So this grind here, it's about 70 degrees, this bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that is about 20, that there is around the 20 degrees. Okay. It's slightly under, it's 15 degrees. Sorry, it's 15 degrees. And that is 70 degrees, I think.
The aim is to get it right up to slightly less than 90.
Yes. And the thing is, this little chappy, which I still enjoy, I used to have this at 30-30. Okay. I don't anymore. As you can see, I'm playing around with the angles and everything else. And this one I've now put virtually the same as the bowl scraper, because the edge lasts longer, because obviously the more acute your edge, the less longevity it has. And I have to be quite honest with you, and I'll show my face so you know I'm being honest. I'll be quite honest with you. The difference in quality of finish is negligible. So if you've got like a 30-30, it's almost a knife edge. It's almost like a skew, if you like. But that edge didn't last at all. But now if you use a sort of a 65-70 with a 15-20 under 90 degree negative rake, you get the same properties of the negative rake, i.e. it's not as aggressive and it's a bit more user friendly, and the edge will last longer. Okay. This is my opinion, of course. Anything I say today is my opinion, and very few, if anybody, will agree with it. Okay, so if
he says, how do you sharpen that big scraper? No, I'm
this
not
one,
sure that one or the other one. I'm not sure which one.
Simon Hopewell, I think he's talking about.
Yeah,
so,
I'll show you that in a second. I'll just do this little bit here, and then.
Oh no, Terry's in.
Evening, Terry.
Oh, great stuff.
Hello, Terry.
Hiya, Terry.
Hello, Terry, in the sunshine.
Such a pleasure to see you, mate. Okay, so this is the heavy duty. Okay, and we'll just go in here. Now you can see the rough bit here. The beauty of this is it is so stable, and you can literally, I'm just pivoting basically, and you can see the fine shavings you're getting. And we'll just do a little bit more here, get rid of that, and we'll go up to here. And you should be able to see that is just here, look, there, that's right. It's really smooth, really smooth. Now, as I say, this is the actual bowler's warped in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So where you see a little ridge there, I mean, I could get that down by just carrying on, but for the point of what we're trying to get at is how well it does actually do the job. Now, the smaller one, this little fella here, will do the same job, and it's ideal for, you see, can you hear that? Does the mic pick up the chatter there?
No.
That's because it's warped. So what I can do is I'll be a bit more aggressive, and I'll get rid of that, and we'll go right here. That should have got it all, virtually. Yeah. Now that's nice and smooth. So these negative rake scrapers are brilliant, in my opinion, for actually not really for getting rid of, they get rid of tool marks, but the main idea is you've got a bit of tear out or whatever, you can do very, very fine negative rake scraping with it. Now, sharpening is really quite easy. You don't have to take it to the grinder every time. Now, bearing in mind these I'll show you on this one because it's easier because it's bigger. There are two bevels. I'm not sure of the bevel angles, but however, it's basically a negative rake and it is used that way. Okay. And what you need to do is raise the burr on the smaller bevel. Now, all I do for about 5 or 6 times of sharpening is just use a diamond card, or you can use a diamond hone of any sort. And the same way that you would produce a secondary bevel on your skew chisel or whatever, you just make sure that you see what that is there? That's a bit of resin. Still finding it. Okay, so you basically just find the bevel, and I just like to lift ever so slightly, and you just go round. Okay, and that raises the burr, which is basically what you need to do, and then you can use it. Okay, and I'll just prove it to you that all I've done there is use the diamond card, and it's as sharp as you like. Okay.
The best thing of that cutter too, you can undo the screw and rotate the cutter. You get 3 or 4 goes out of it.
I was just going to come to that. You can. There's a big screw there, and you can rotate this, and then after about, in my opinion, 4 or 5, not uses, but when you feel it needs sharpening, if you've done it 4 or 5 times, because you're not doing it obviously perfectly circular, you could put it out of shape over time. So every now and again, you just unscrew that, and Simon provides a little arbor, and this screws onto the arbor that goes into your drill, and you put that up to your wheel or your belt or whatever, and you just run the drill on the bevel and raise the burr that way, and then you've got a symmetrical tool again that only needs honing with a diamond card or a diamond hone when you need to refresh that edge.
On the subject of sharpening,
yes,
Gary P has asked, how do you sharpen a ring tool?
Oh,
I haven't got a ring tool. I've never had one. Pete's got one.
Yeah, I use them all the time.
So he's the guy to ask.
Okay, so all I do is I use a Dremel and where's my ring tool gone? I use a Dremel with a conical stone, which I just put in there and just run it around. Same on that side, just run it around. And in between that, I use a diamond cut on the outside just to touch it up if I need to. And there's not much metal there, so they don't last that long, but they're quite cheap. So I don't worry too much about the sharpening. I just do a rough job of it, and it still works.
Scary looking tool.
You can actually buy the little grinding.
There is a specially shaped one, yes.
Yeah, there is a specially shaped one for it, but it's not worth the effort. Just as Pete says, the piece on the Dremel will do exactly the same job.
I think it's worthy to mention as well, with sharpening, we go into that later on if people want to, with scrapers, negative rake scrapers, even skew chisels, and even your gouges, to be honest with you, you can refresh that edge without going to the grinder with a hone, with a diamond card, a diamond hone, whatever. But make sure it's diamond because you get a better, you get a better burn. It gives a sharper edge. So you don't always have to go to your grinder. You keep one in your back pocket or whatever, and you can just refresh that edge. I mean, some people, if we take a scraper, a standard scraper, that's just a square end scraper. Okay, let's just go to me for a minute, so I don't want the other guys pinching. Okay, so you've got the scraper here. Now, some people, what you're trying to do is raise the burr here. Okay, so if you've got, some people will just do it like so. Okay, what's fine? It'll do the job. I was always taught to do it that way. You put on the heel and toe, so you've got the bevel, and you just do it in a circular motion. And I prefer doing it that way because that's what I'm used to doing. And the same with your skew chisels. And indeed, it's a little bit more difficult with your spindle gouges. I'm only showing you this because a lot of people think, oh, you've got to go to the grinder every time. You don't have to go to the grinder every time. Now, with your spindle gouge, it's the same principle, okay, where you are, hang on, let's get it there. You are heeling and toeing. I know you've got if you use a grinder, you've got a hollow grind, doesn't matter. And literally the same thing again, but you have to be a little bit more careful because you've got to maintain that all the way around. Because you could start doing that or that. So, but it is possible. And the best way to do it is stick it on there like so, and then just rotate the tool very slightly. And then you get to your wings. And that has now refreshed that edge. And it's as sharp as it would be off the grinder.
Couple of questions here, Mike.
Yeah. This is what tonight's all about, people.
It's about turning a cove. We'll come back to that one.
Yeah, come back to that next week.
What's the best grit for your diamond card?
I'm sorry?
What's the best grit density for a diamond card or honing card?
Normally they come double. You've got 180, 300, and I think I've got a 300 and a 600. I normally on a scraper I'll use a 180, sometimes a 300, but 180 on scrapers. Negative rate scrapers, again, if you want a finer burr, then you can use the finer grit, but the same thing applies. The finer the edge, the less time it's going to last you. Okay. And the trade-off with finish, unless you're an absolute expert, to me is not that different. I'd rather have a bit extra time on it's a bit like a skew chisel, really. I mean, Pete, I don't know if the other guys, Pete uses a 15 degree on his skew chisels. Yep. It definitely it's more difficult. It's less forgiving. I think mine's about 20 degrees. And that gives me, which I will demonstrate later, gives me a nice finish. But the 15 degree, I've tried the 15 degree. Obviously, it does give a better finish, but the edge will not last as long as the 20 degree. And I personally, well, mind you, I cheat with my skews anyway because they've all got a slight radius on them anyway. But that it's personal touch.
And training wheels.
And training wheels.
Yeah. And I tend to think if I'm using training wheels at 72, I don't think I'm worth changing really because I've never learned.
Yeah, no point changing now.
No. And I'll let you into a little secret, everybody that's here. I actually bought I don't even know what make it is. It's a pretty cheap skew chisel, straight over. Cost me about 20 quid to do a video. And I had it straight across. It was to demonstrate the difference. And I put a radius on it. I very rarely use it. I mean, that's a 20 degree grind. It's quite thin. It's not rounded on the edges. Well, it is now because I've done it myself. But I just prefer. I've always used and what I tend to do is I just have about a fifth of the total edge straight. So I can do my shoulders and stuff with this part of the chisel, which is great, which with the normal standard skew you can do anyway. But this is more forgiving, especially when you're, in my opinion, when you're rounding square stock. Because of late, I use the skew chisels a lot now just to round stuff down and do as much as I can because I like practicing with it, and it is only practice that gets you to a level where you feel comfortable using it, But yeah, diamond card, brilliant. 180 to 300, personally, I think is adequate for turning tools. If you're using bench chisels and so on, well, you'd be using a stone anyway.
You can go more, yeah. But normally for wood turning, anywhere between 120 and 200 is fine.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
much more. If you put much more of a grit on it, you'll just lose the sharpness quicker.
Well, exactly. It's like the old thing with carbon steel and high-speed steel. Carbon steel will give you a keener edge. but it won't last. It doesn't last as long. And a high-speed steel will give you an edge, which isn't much different, but it will last a lot longer. And the cryo tools, etc., like Simon Hope's and so on, all the different ones out there, the Crown cryos, they last longer than your standard HSS, you know. But it's a trade. Everything is a trade-off. Everything is a trade-off.
Two questions in, which I think we can dispense with quickly.
Yeah.
Philip J says, do you still have your Silby Pro Edge? I think you sold that, didn't you?
I did. I sold it.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
So the answer to that is no. And I've lost the name because it was a while back. Have you used Klingspor abrasives?
No.
Who said that?
No. Didn't think
Abrasives, let me tell you something. This is my opinion. Abrasives are, there's cheap, can I say the word shitty? Yes, it's my, yes.
No, you
cheap,
can't.
shitey ones, cheap, shitey ones, and there are quality ones. And it's a bit like waxes. People say, why do you only use Hampshire Sheen? Because I've used Hampshire Sheen for years. I don't get it free. I get the odd tin now and again, but it's as good as any other wax I've used. And because I know Martin, why not use it? The same with abrasives. The abrasives I use are, can't even remember what they are now. They're from Hopi. Oh, Rhino Grip, and there's another one as well, which he uses, and the name absolutely eludes me. Endasa, right? They're all high quality, good abrasives. Klingspor, high quality, good abrasives. It's a personal choice, you know. But don't get the cheap stuff. Get a good quality abrasive. And another thing, and people are going to shoot me down in flames, and unless you're using an inertia sander or a drill, if you're hand sanding, once you've used it, chuck it. Because a lot of people have this idea that, okay, I'll start out with, you know, 180. If I use that a bit, it'll go down to 240 and it'll go down to 320. It doesn't work that way.
No.
Once you've used it, sling it.
Chuck it.
Mike was imagining stuff then. Mike usually starts at 40.
Well, I've actually, I normally use what they call a bastard foil, which we used to use in metalwork.
Just to get started,
yeah. I start off with that. Cheers, Pete.
I think if I could just chip in there, the biggest difference with abrasive is the glue.
Yeah.
The grit that's on them is pretty standard stuff, but it's how well it's stuck to the backing cloth. If you've got a cheap one, those bits of grit will fall off. Yes, I did bring enough beer for everybody if they want to come round. The grits will fall off and then they'll get stuck into the wood, and then you put the next grit on and you get a scratch on from the previous grit. So that's the biggest difference.
And the other thing as well, while we're on the subject of sanding, is when you're sanding, I like to inertia sand as often as I can on as many pieces as I can, purely and simply because you get a random scratch pattern, and that's all sanding does. It creates scratches, and then you take the next finer grit, gets rid of the previous scratches, and so it goes on, providing you keep the same pressure on each sanding grit. Yeah. Now, if you are if you're using an inertia sander, the scratches are random, and you'll find, providing you use the same pressure on your inertia sander or your power drill, if you're power sanding, that the scratch pattern will be less discernible as you get finer. So in other words, there's less chance of getting those radial marks that you get with your hand sanding. And again, speed is important and pressure is vital. Everything is even. Don't sand too quick, because heat is not your friend, because it will check, especially with things like and cherry.
It also heats up the abrasive, and it heats up the glue on the abrasive. So if you get your sandpaper too hot, you're just ruining the sandpaper.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you know, it's not like when you're sanding something down by hand that is stationary, like if you're doing a skirting board or a door or something. That's a bit different. And it's like turning tools. People say, I've seen a bloke use a hand chisel on a, yes, you can use a hand chisel because it's basically the same bevel and so on. It's dangerous, but you can use it. But those tools aren't made for spinning wood. They're made for hand. So the forces involved, excuse me, and the amount that edge has got to take off is phenomenal. That's why to have too fine an edge is not advantageous for longevity of that edge to remain. Anyway, as I say, with sanding, as long as you get a good quality sanding, either with a hook and loop situation on the back or cloth backed, never paper back like you use for painting and decorating. No. Just the only time you will use something like that is just wet and dry. You know, if you're doing wet and dry sanding on resin or something similar, or a pen. You know, if you're using CA glue finish and you're using it, that's different. Yeah, with water and that. No, I don't do
Anthony
that.
Green said, what about Abranet plastic mesh sandpaper? That's made by Mercer, another quality brand, so it's good stuff.
It is great stuff, yeah.
It's not the only mesh one. And the advantage of a mesh is if you're doing a spindle, forget using mesh on any sort of backing pad, it's pointless. If you're doing a spindle, you're doing it by hand. When it clogs up, you can just tap it and all the dust goes out the back.
That's the idea. One word of warning. Don't use a 180 on something like a finial, because it's quite likely that you'll get your very nicely tailored finial caught in the little holes and it'll snap. I've got some
experience, Mike.
Yeah.
Don't ask me how I know that, he says.
Yeah, no. When I started, well, 2 or 3 years after I started turning, I got a complete range of Abranet, and I was doing it, and I needed just to do a bit of new. I think it was actually I was using 240, and it got caught in the end, and it just boom, just went. But yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff, and it's you know. But I just like using the either Indasa or whether it be Klingsmore, whatever as I say. If it's a good quality cloth backed or hook and loop, you can't go wrong. Yeah. Okay. That's that. Oh, it's no good asking Simon. Maybe he could write in there. Did I explain the inside of your bowl? Because I can't think of any scenario where I wouldn't use a negative rake scraper to smooth the inside, even if it's a hollow form. If you've got a very small entrance to your hollow form, you only need to sand finger deep anyway, because nobody can feel any further unless you've got voids in it, like some of the ones I've done. Then you've got a hand sand, obviously, because you've got big gaps in it. You've got more air than wood, if you like. That's different. But a normal hollow form, a closed, there's one here which is an old one which is cracked, but you can't see anything through there, so you can't really get your fingers down further than there. So there's no point sand. You can sand a bit if you want to, but there's no point because nobody can see it. And unless someone comes along with a torch and looks inside, and if someone looked at that and got a torch, I'd ask them to go.
Simon says, yes, that's great, thank you.
Good, okay.
You have to resharpen his large bowl gouges. Yours seems to work a lot better than his.
No, I don't know about that. Right. Jack Shack isn't in yet?
Nope, not seen him yet.
No, okay. Now, Simon asked on behalf of his friend Ron Jones, beads and coves. Yeah?
Could you put us in the background again?
Yeah,
okay, we've got another one on beads and coves. Sorry, I've lost the name, but I've just written down here. Cutting beads and coves, getting uneven results from one side to the other. Is it good to change hands?
I'll demonstrate, because I'm not brilliant at doing freehand beads and coves, I must be honest with you. And that is the art of doing beads and coves, is getting an equal cove where it meets in the middle. Okay. Now, if you have a small ridge in the middle, you can spend forever going a bit this way and a bit that, which I'll demonstrate in a minute. You don't really need to do that. It's only a small ridge. You can sand that out. There's no shame in sanding to get it perfect. And I always relay this to people. Cindy Drozder, the high priestess of finials and fine turning, in my opinion, when she says she can spend, if she's doing a a gallery piece, she could spend up to 2 hours with 240 refining the shape of the onion. Now, if she can do that, then there's no shame in sanding to perfection, you know. So that's my opinion, because at the end of the day, 99.9% of people don't care how you got to the finished product. It's the finished product they look at, not what you've done to achieve it, you know. So that's there. So beads and coves. My
in the background, Mike.
Yeah. My oh, got rid of everybody then. Hang on.
That's the way to do it.
That's the way to do it. Okay, so we're going to go to. I think we'll try that one again, and we'll zoom out a little bit.
Yeah, don't put a bead and cove in that way.
No, I don't. No, don't worry. I just.
No, not recommended.
Okay. Now, this is another piece I was going to be taking to Newark for a box, but that's why it's got.
Okay, before you do a bead and cove on that, go back to the original question about the skew chatter.
All right. Okay.
Face off the skew, and you can show us how badly you can do it.
Yeah, I'll put the longer one in then.
There are 103 people watching.
Welcome to all 103. I am amazed.
That's a really good turnout for us.
Thank you very much for joining. Very much indeed. Now, I don't know where the middle is here, but hopefully that's fairly good. This has got voids in it and other stuff. It's not the best thing to show, but there we go. Nothing's ever perfect. And I must apologise for coughing. I've had a chest and still got a chest infection, so I'm not asking for sympathy. It's just coughing. If I forget to remove my mic boom.
Just as well, because you're not getting any sympathy.
I wouldn't expect any. Okay, so I'm going to be using my cheats. No, it's not the right one, is it? That one there. Is that better? Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Okay. Now you're getting. Who was the guy talking?
It was a long time ago. I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
I just noted down the question quickly.
Now the same thing will happen if you're. One thing with a skew, as most people know, is don't go straight in. Always glide into the cut. Okay. Now I'm turning now at about 2000 RPM. Okay. So just straight to begin with. Okay. That is a fairly nice cut. Not too bad. Getting ridges.
Hoggy Hog Wood is the person who was asking this question.
That's the one, yes.
Right. Okay. What I'm doing here.
Love that name, by the way.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Is going too quick for the wood. The same as with a spindle gouge or any tool. You've got to traverse to allow the wood to be taken off by the edge. Okay. So you've got to let the wood come down onto the edge. Now, I've made a few little ridges there. Now, if I just go nice and slowly, engage the cut, let's go back here. Bearing in mind, as I say, this wood is not the best wood to do this sort of a show on. Trying to get that over there. Actually,
basically saying it's the relative speed across the tool rest to the speed of the lathe.
This is my little 3/4.
Apologies to all those people that have come in that we haven't said hello to.
Yes, hello.
So much we don't get a chance to sort of chuck names in there. It's hard to word edgeways with Mike.
I can't believe you said that, Pete.
Was it this? This, I think, is a piece of ash actually, but it's
Ash.
got voids. It's got voids, knots, and cracks in it. But you can see there, as long as you go across the wood at the speed your tool is capable of cutting the wood, you should get a nice smooth cut. And that's not too shabby, considering we got nuts and what have you up there. So let's just use this cheap one. Again.
Hoggy Hogwood said, I get the chatter towards the end of the cut.
Right,
my
okay.
first question there would be, are you getting towards the end of the tool rest? Because that'll make you nervous and not get you chatter.
Yeah. And the other thing is, when you get to the end, see what I've done there? I did that on purpose. I came to the end without going off the end. Yeah? You follow through into air, right? Now, if you're going to the end of the tool rest, and your tool rest is there, yeah? You still, I'm not going to do any hero moves. You still have, if your tool is like this, you still got it there, but you think, oh God, I'm going to fall off the end a minute. So you start to lift the bevel possibly in anticipation of falling off the end of the rest.
Yeah, Hoggy says no, he's got plenty of room left on the rest. I nearly couldn't say that then.
So it's towards the.
My next suggestion is
end.
possibly you're moving your arms rather than your body.
That's what I think.
Yeah, right. Let me just see if I've got. There we go. Right. So if you stand like this and I do this, I'm not moving my body, I'm moving my arms. Okay. I've only got to go to here. Okay. What you should do is the same as you would with any tool, especially let's say a spindle roughing gouge. You get it locked in. I don't mean tight. I mean you use your body, and what you need to do is to go across with your body like this. Now it's no good if you start in here. A lot of people will do this. So you're going with your body, you're coming with your body, and all of a sudden you're going to start to fall off the end because your weight isn't distributed properly. So my advice always is to get comfortable at the end of the cut. Okay, let's just say the cut's going to end here. Okay, that's where the cut's going to end. Okay, so what I need to do is get myself, before I turn the lathe on, right, if I'm over here, I'm already starting to get out of kilter, and on a longer spindle, if I'm starting here, by the time I get there, I'm falling over myself. But if I take this sort of a stance, so I'm comfortable here, and then go back, I'm leaning into the cut. So I'm starting uncomfortable, if you like. So you're really concentrating, and it's getting easier, and your balance is better as you're going down towards the end. And then you get to the end, and you're really comfortable. And the same with beads and coves as well. You concentrate in here, or say, for example, you're doing a round over, and you're starting up here, right? And then you want to go over there. By the time you get out here, if it's a longer piece, you're falling over yourself. What you need to do is get to the end of the piece, feel nice and comfortable there, go back and lean into it so that you're really comfortable in the end. So here...
Mike, could I ask you to do something?
Yeah.
Your picture is covering the end where your skew is.
Oh, right, okay.
It's in the bottom right-hand corner. Can you put it up in the top right-hand corner?
But also the question has been answered.
How's that?
Hoggy Hogwood says he thinks we're onto something.
That's better, Mike.
That's body.
Oh, there.
Said, thank you.
That's much better, Mike. That'll do. Yeah. That's better there. Yeah.
Hang on. Make it a bit bigger. There we go.
Hi, Lewis.
How's that? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep,
The
that'll do.
question's
Yep.
been answered. Let's move on to coves.
Oh, okay.
Don't
Beads
want
and
to go
coves.
cove speak. You keep pushing with these cove speak.
As long as you're happy with the answer, Hoggy Wood, that's all that matters.
Yep.
Something about Mike Bryan. Every time I'm near a hole, I want to push him into it.
I know. It's quite. Yeah. I know the feeling, Pete.
Lucky I don't care.
I'm very
William's
pleased that we
sitting
actually
here
came up with
quiet.
something that might be the solution. Thank you for letting us know you got what you want.
I mean, yeah, that's the main thing.
Try our best.
It gives you an opportunity to go away, try something. If it doesn't work, try something else.
He said, brilliant. He'll be on that tomorrow. Practice makes perfect.
Excellent.
Good man. Only perfect
Should have
practice.
comment in
makes
the
perfect.
video afterwards. Let us know if we got it right or not.
Well, that's not very straight, is it? Right. Let's get the old. Let's get that straight.
Lewis just put in the chat there. Esteemed earworms.
Yeah, Lewis.
Is there somebody else in here? Somebody else I don't know about. It's a good point to note there when you're watching that cut, just where the shaving is coming off the edge of that tool.
Yeah.
It's in the bottom third of the cut, or the bottom third of the tool.
Of the tools, yeah.
Okay. Beadies and covies. I do so few beads and coves. Okay. But it's a skill to learn. I will use the spindle gouge as well. Don't worry. I'm not going to cheat completely. Now, if you want to make a bead, you can get a beading tool. This is a beading tool. Okay. Now, let's just say we want to make a bead. You literally use it that way and engage. No pressure. And your idea is as soon as you get a shaving out the middle, you've got your bead. Okay. And you can have a bigger one. This is the brilliance of Simon Oates. Quick change. You want a bigger one next door. Takes a bit longer, obviously. There you go. So there are two beads of different sizes. Okay, one there, one there. Bit of tear out there because I was a bit heavy on it, but that's not the beading tool's fault. That's my fault. So just to prove that's the case, I shall just hopefully smooth that up a bit. Yeah, I mean, basically, it's just me putting it too much pressure. Now, my favorite one, now this, I did a video on this years ago, and I was inspired to do this from Pat Carroll, because Pat Carroll did this wonderfully beaded hollow form. And it's an old 3/8 spindle gouge, and slightly in on either wing, and flattened. So in other words, you say the spindle gouge.
Can we get a close up on that?
Yeah. Actually, if I use that one and zoom in, this will because it's a better camera. There we go. So if you take that as that's your spindle gouge. So what you've basically done is taken it down to here. So we're now there. Okay. And just to get a nice small gap between beads, if you're in one or two, just take the wings in a bit, make them a bit narrower, and then just grind this. And I think this is, I don't know, it's something like 80 degrees maybe, and you use it that way. Okay. And then we're going to do a bead.
Back to overhead again.
Overhead.
Oh, Josephson. Hey, Joseph.
Mike, can you put your camera on the Pro Edge and leave it there for half an hour, or give us an overhead?
Right. Okay. I would on the Pro Edge if I had one. Sorry, I've just got my fingers are just locked up. Okay, so the beauty of this is that, as you can see, that forget that distance there, but there's quite a wide gully there, and it's quite a deep bead. Whereas these beads on here, it's a bit low actually. If I want to do a bead next to it, again, I wasn't quite far enough in there, but I think you get the idea where they're much closer. Okay.
Yeah.
So that little bit in the middle, forget that. Sorry, I got cramp in my index finger. It's locked up completely.
I get that problem.
Good. Anyway, I'm falling apart. I am. Yeah. So that's the other way, and then of course the other way is the traditional way of doing beads and coves. If we take a parting tool, actually, let's get rid of those beads. Oh no, we'll leave them there.
Of course, if you do buy one of the commercially available bead tools, the grind they put on there isn't the grind you've got to keep. You can always change it, make it a bit steeper, about 80 degrees, same as some with that modified spindle gouge, and you'll get a similar effect.
Okay, so I'm using a 3/8 spindle gouge here. So again, basically, just approximately, that's the middle of that bead, that's the middle of that bead, and that's the middle of that bead. That was the middle, but it's not. The middle is that part, this part of it here. Look. Okay, so if we start here, what you need to do is if you're doing this part, you need to be comfortable at the end, because maybe it would be advantageous to, nope.
Jerry said, anyone else from America? Yeah, a large number of people in the chat are from America. It's right in front of me right now, Ward and Todd, and that's the only two I've got on my screen at the moment that are Americans.
Yep. Yeah, there's quite a few.
But there are several.
Yeah, Ward Wilson's from the west coast of Arizona, because he always says that when he comes into the chat.
Yep.
No.
Todd is from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
This bead here.
Oh, and Doug's in as well. Yeah, he's American.
This bead here, you see the middle bit? That's the middle. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what a lot of people will do, and I don't see the point, okay, is you start, and you're going to just make a thing there. All you've got to do is take a little bit of even 320, that's all. A little bit of quality 320. Okay. And all you do, there you go.
Just tidy it up.
And it's tidied it up. So a bit more, obviously, but the point I'm making is you don't have to, it's like everything else. Some days you get it just right each time, and other days you don't. Now, I have more difficulty doing this side than that side for some reason. So I start on this side first. So all I'm doing is riding a bevel, and like with a skew chisel, make sure you're always putting a bit of pressure forward. Okay. So I'm starting over this side. My body is to the left of the line. Lift the handle. Lift the handle, lift the handle, lift the handle, and in. that side.
Lift and rotate your wrist.
Yeah, exactly. So, and there is, you can just about see the line there. So again, that's not very good. Oh, mind you, the reason it's not very good is it's not as deep that end, is it? Twit. Twit.
We have 113 people watching now.
Well,
I think every woodturner in the universe, apart from the superheroes like Steve and a couple of others, is more dominant on one side than the other, and they have to learn to compensate for that.
You do. And the other thing you need to take into account is when you're using a spindle gouge like this, it's usually got a shorter handle.
No, again.
So it gets out of your way.
Yeah. Again.
Your body doesn't get in the way of it.
A slight point there, just a slight point. A little bit of.
Philip J wants to know what the RPMs were when you were using the skew on this piece.
About
I would suggest around 2,000 RPM is correct.
Yeah.
But whatever you feel safe with, if you feel safe,
yes,
at 1,500 reps, go at 1,500 reps. You feel safe at 1,000, go at 1,000.
If we go back to the skew just for a minute, it's the same as we said with that. If you're, hang on, let's go back to here. If you, and I'll put the lads in as well just for a second. If you are turning a bit of square stock down to round, okay, we'll do that in a minute if anybody's interested. Speed. If you're doing something like that, whether you're using a skew chisel, a spindle roughing gouge, it doesn't, or bowl gouge to get it round, it doesn't matter. The faster you can turn that piece of wood, the air is coming less frequently. All right, more frequently. Sorry. So your spinning air is like a brrr, not a brr, 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 right?
There's less time to move the gouge in between.
Exactly. And the thing is that you'll get a much better cut and it'll be a much more pleasant experience. And the same thing is with the skew or any. I mean, my lathe goes up to 3,600 RPM. Okay. I have it on the middle belt all the time. It goes down to about 40, up to 2.3, 2.4. That for all the turning I do, even spindles.
Covers everything.
It covers everything. The only time I change it is if I'm doing something heavy and out of balance, and I'll change it to the lowest torque with a maximum RPM of about 1,400 because I want the torque. I've never needed, I don't turn pens, and even pens I didn't turn at 3,000 RPM. When I was turning pens, 2,000, 2,500 maybe the most. Anyway, but there comes a point where you could be turning too slow almost because you're not allowing. You can turn slow. I'll demonstrate that in a minute. You can turn slow, obviously, but then you've got to go slow. It's no good going like that and having the wood coming like that. If you go in that speed, the wood needs to be coming around like that. So as long as Pete said and I said earlier on, you're traversing the tool rest at the speed that is commensurate with the speed of the wood coming round. Yeah, that's the most important thing.
The tool feed rate has to match the speed of the wood.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Joseph's in, and obviously he's asked, have you done the rings yet?
I've done them. Sorry, mate. I've done 3. I did 3 off. I've already done an off-center 3-piece goblet with 3 captive rings, but they fell off because the stem detached itself from the goblet bowl. But we don't
Martin Dickinson's made a good point. He said, when doing beads, if you place your index finger along the flute, that'll get you cut one direction. And he hasn't mentioned it. I'm sure he means if you put your thumb on the flute instead of your index finger, that'll get you the other direction pretty evenly.
Well, I don't do it that way. I do it that way, but
that's whatever suits you. Whatever you were taught basically in the beginning.
Let's try it. So what you're saying is put your thumb there, yeah,
and go to the right now.
Go to the right.
Yeah.
No, you could bring your thumb back a wee bit. You're very close.
Yeah, no,
that doesn't.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I turn them like that anyway. My thumb is not there.
Right, now switch your hand so your index finger is where your thumb is. And go the other way.
That way. That way.
Now change your hand over. Put your index finger.
Oh, you mean use my right hand?
No, index finger of that hand.
This hand?
No, other hand.
Oh, sorry, I'm with you. Like this, you mean?
Your right hand.
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
the one.
Right. Okay.
Put
Yeah.
your index
okay,
finger on the flute, then that'll turn it the other way.
Okay, let's try it.
You'll get it, Mike. All right.
Oh, I know what it is. I've got my glasses on. I can't see what I'm doing.
Mike, the lady over to the left, mate.
Okay.
I think everyone finds their own way of holding the tool.
Pardon?
I think everyone will find their own way that's comfortable for them to hold the tool.
Actually.
Shift your hand down the shaft a bit and put your index finger on that flute instead of your thumb.
No, I don't like. Well, I'm not saying it doesn't work.
It does work.
I don't. Yes, it does. But
it's all about what you get used to.
Yeah, and I'm used to doing it the way I do it. But as you can tell by the quality of my beads, no, I think those beads are okay. Actually, I'm quite happy with those, considering I haven't done one freehand for a long time.
Absolutely excellent, Mike. But the question was about coves.
Yeah, okay, we'll do a cove. I'll tell you what, we can make. Yeah, we'll make a cove in between here then. So we'll use that as our center line. Okay. Yeah, okay. So if you start a cove, no, that's not going to work. I'll get rid of this first.
Flatten it and do it again.
It's a bit deep there, isn't it?
That was you got a bit over ambitious when you're turning a bead.
Oh, that's that beading tool.
Yeah. I said you can regrind those if you've got one and you find it too deep.
Yeah.
Just change the angle.
Some of them have got real long wings on them, haven't they?
Yeah, as Mike says, about 80 degrees, and you will reduce that depth of cut.
I don't know why I'm doing that, actually. There's no need, is there? Just like it to be tidy. Okay, so a bead. A cove, sorry. So let's just say from here to there, yeah? And there's your middle. Yeah? So it's base. What are you laughing at, Brian?
Let's do that.
I'm laughing at Mike from Dances with Aardvarks. He just says, beat to the right, tongue to the left, and vice versa. I think that's the rule.
I think that's right, yeah.
That'll do. Okay,
yeah.
So, again, I'm using a 3/8 spindle gouge here, okay? So the idea, and again, I will say this, and my peers on the earworms will put me right. If I'm going from here to there, that's a lovely center line, isn't it? Right, okay. You start in here and I'm moving that way, and I'm moving my body. I'm not using my hands, I'm moving my body. So I want to end up here. That's annoying me now. Sorry, people. We're going to have two center lines now.
Well, in between two will be close.
Yeah, right. So if I just want my body bit in here now, show me body. Where's my body gone?
Oh dear, we've got to see his body again.
There it is. Right. Now, if I'm going from right to left, right down, that's where the cove is going to be here. I will go that way. Okay. Now, if I'm going from this way to this way, I don't want to be here. I want to be here. Okay. And this way there.
Yeah. It is literally a half a step between one side and the other.
So either that, you can change hands, of course.
Yeah, you can change hands, but you don't have to.
Lift the handle.
No, not at all, no.
And then this way, I want to be here, so I want to be over here.
with a slightly wider stance, you can make the cut without having to move your legs.
Yeah,
you can. Depends on the size of the cove you're trying to make, I suppose.
Yeah.
And how long your legs are.
and same as you adjusting the tool rest to the perfect height. You don't bother when you're doing a lot of things. You just change your angle of attack.
Correct.
Same with this.
Correct.
Once you've got it right, then you can adjust it.
Correct, Pete. Wood-turn is a very personal thing. There are some guidelines in the beginning to get you started, but once you get into the swing of the thing and develop your own style, if you want to call it that, you can do whatever you like, basically.
Yeah, run with it.
Yep. Don't be stuck by convention. Try it. See what happens. And as long as you're doing it safely, you're fine.
And when I was learning, and I still do it actually, get a coin out of your pocket, cut the coves to match it, see if it fits.
That's a good idea, Pete. See, if I was doing a deep cove, I would start in the middle and work backwards towards the edge.
Yeah. Yeah, I usually do as well.
And that one more cut here.
I was waiting for that.
It's basically like a basically like a scooping motion. It's by no means the best cove I've ever seen, but it's, considering I haven't actually done a freehand cove for maybe a year.
You're doing all right, Mike.
Can you demonstrate this with a scraper? I wouldn't ever use a scraper for this.
I can do, yeah, not a problem.
I mean,
the thing is as well, it's practice.
And make it wider as well. Demonstrate with a scraper and make it wider.
No, you could use a little negative rake scraper.
Yeah, you can. I just never would.
No. There's a negative rake scraper.
If you went back 50 years, every cove in the world would be made.
Mike's gone funny, Brian.
Have I? Have I gone funny?
No, Brian has.
No, you're okay.
Brian has. Right. So yes, you can do it with a scraper.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, I do because you're Scottish.
What?
Yeah, you can obviously use a scraper, but it's not something that I'd recommend because I don't know. I don't know why. If I got to do a cove, I will normally use a spindle gouge.
Yeah, me too.
Or
I will use a scraper.
If I'm doing a long cove, like in a tool handle.
Use a skew.
Oh yeah.
Spindle roughing gouge. Job done.
Yeah, you can do. I mean, if you watch somebody like Steve Jones, I mean, he uses spindle gouge as well to get the shallow coves. But if he can get some pretty tight coves with the skew chisel, and he uses a 1-inch skew. The main thing with the skew is that you never relent on the pressure of not pushing forward, but giving forward motion to that skew. As soon as you back off, it's got to catch.
Yeah,
you've got to keep it slicing. Yeah,
yep.
And as Pete says, I mean, Pete is far more adept, and I'm sure Brian and William are than I am with the skew. But
no,
I've found that with the skew chisel, you've got to give a lot more concentration.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest, and I'm not being one of the biggest problems with the skew, I will turn it down, is you've done your cut and you go away and you're looking at it and it catches. I can't do it now, but
clink.
And it catches because, and I've done the same. I've done the same thing with spindle gouge. I'm really concentrating on doing something, and I go back, and my hand hasn't moved the tool away from the wood, and it catches on the wood. You know, so it's.
Or if you're recording, you're looking at the screen.
Really jealous girlfriend you take to the pub.
Yes.
You got to be very, very aware that you do not look at any other woman in the pub for the entire evening, because the moment your concentration wavers, it'll bite you.
Oh yeah, and quick.
Very true. Very true. Very
true. I have no idea what you mean, Pete.
I don't anymore. I'm lucky now.
Right, Jack Shack is not in, is he?
No, I've not seen his name.
No. Okay, Richard.
Jack Shack, if you're there, just say hello, because we've got something for you, but I've not seen your name yet.
But I mean, I can do that anyway. Jack doesn't have to be here because it's quite.
He can always watch it back later.
Yeah, but it's not. It's a good question that he asked actually. Richard messaged me and asked me. I want that fit in there. What I suggest when he's parting something off, to minimise the need to sand the underside of the object that you just parted off.
Yeah.
Now, when you're parting off, the parting tool is again needs a little bit of practice to get it right. So I will demonstrate that now, if I may. And if it's not what you want to see, then tell me and I'll stop doing it.
Stop doing it.
No, wondering whether I can get.
Okay, you keep setting these snowballs up, I have to throw them.
Snows for choking.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Let's see how. Oh, we'll just straighten that bit. It's not. Just needs a little bit of truing up on the very end there. We might as well use a parting tool for that. Speed. Now, when you're using the parting tool to do this, you can have quite a high speed. Down a bit. Just
can we have overhead for that cut? Thank you.
Move that over there a bit. How's that?
Spot on.
All right.
That's cool.
Yeah. What I'm doing here is just facing off the piece. Okay. So, if we imagine that this piece goes up to here and we want to part it off here. Let's say it's a goblet, okay? You want to part it off and you want to part it off with a slight undercut, obviously, so it sits on the edges. Now, what Richard, aka Jack Shack's question was, what is my suggestion for doing the parting off, leaving as little sanding as possible? First thing I'd say, if it's a goblet, and we'll just part this off now. So the goblet comes out here, okay? So what we're doing, I've turned the speed down a bit, okay? And another thing to note, if you go in parting, just that is 90 degrees. Let's get the rest 90 degrees. Is 90 degrees, and I just slight undercut like that, just a few degrees. Now, if I start there, you'll see fuzzies, yeah? Which is not a problem. It's not a problem because you sand those off. But if you go in Let me get rid of those fuzzies. If you go in straight and then lift your handle and start to do the cut, you get no fuzzies. Okay? Now that's not an undercut. I'm just telling you how you can enter with a parting tool without getting those fuzzies on the end. If you go in virtually on center to start with, then you won't get the fuzzies. And then you just drop the handle, lift, and start doing your parting cut. So let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. Okay, so this is going to be what we're parting off here. So slight angle, and literally, if you use a diamond parting tool, you have to make a slight relief cut so you don't get any binding, because this is just a straight parting tool. And the important thing is to keep the pressure the same. Now I'm going too fast there for this. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, it needs to be sharpened. You know what they say, if you think a tool needs sharpening, it needs sharpening.
Sharpen it.
Now again, I could have actually just honed it, but there you go, don't matter. Okay.
Miho's asked, can you do a perfect sphere? I'm not sure we've got time for that tonight, have we?
No.
If you look up SK Crafts, he did one probably about 6 months ago. We did do a sphere as a complete demo. And Mark Beckett, if you look up Skittleball on Mark Beckett's channel, he did one as well, freehand.
Let's just stop the old thing. Right. So now that parting off has left a little nub in the middle, which isn't a problem, but it's also left a ridge here, which is not a problem. You can sand that out. Now, the way to avoid that is not do what I just did, is stop halfway through or whatever. A nice fluid cut. So if we get rid of this.
The other thing is that when that hit the floor, the stem of the goblet broke.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm used to, you see. Okay, so we're going to do the cut now. Let's get the underside. I've just got to walk away a minute because it's flown the other side. Oh. And there it is again. Same thing there. I stopped in between. Perfectly smooth here. Now, to me, okay, that's not the perfect part off. However, you don't have a minimum of sanding on the edge there, because what Richard was saying is that when he sands that, whether he puts an sanding arbor here and he's doing this to sand the base, yeah, is that there's a possibility if you're not doing that completely symmetrical, you're going to get a flat spot on the edge and it's going to not sit flat, it's going to rock. And that was the question, to stop it rocking. Now, my suggestion is a nice smooth cut all the way through, if you can do it, which I'm sure I'll do it on the third one, but I'm not going to bore you with it. But as long as you get that bit there, because here you can sand to your heart's content, it's the edge which is important for it to sit solidly on the surface. And this, believe it or not, does. Once you get the nub off, it'll sit completely flat. So anything you do in here isn't going to affect that at all. And I honestly suggest a minimum of sanding there, because then you will not get an uneven edge, so it'll rock, so it won't rock on the surface.
When I'm doing a goblet or a box or anything spindle
A
based,
gobbler. Yeah, sorry.
I tend to, before I do the last bit of sanding on the piece, I will cut in about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/2 an inch of the base at that stage,
And sand it.
and give myself a little bit of working room. Always on it, Brian. Give yourself a cut-off line so you've got some working space. Sand that bit whilst it's still doing the outside. You're still working on the body of your project. Sand the edge, and then part it off as a separate item afterwards.
Right.
And that
So
way
what you
you've
say?
then got a cove that your hollowed out center bit.
What you're saying
separate
is,
to your finished piece.
yeah, this is the bit we're parting off. Okay, so what we would need to do there, as you say, you've got to give yourself a little bit of working room. So we're parting off just past this line. So you need to just give yourself a little bit of working room on what you're doing. Like so. Now this is what we're parting off, okay? So
yep.
Slide undercut. So start here, start there. Stop.
Yep.
You've got your pieces here. You can sand in there, and in fact, because this is waste wood, if you've got enough left in the chuck, you can get rid of all that.
Yep, you can give yourself a surface to work to.
Get rid of all that, and then you can actually just sand this bit, this part here, so that when you part off, that bit's already sanded, so you haven't got to worry then about making the edge uneven so that it wobbles. So that Pete told me that a couple of years ago, and I still forget sometimes to do it, but when I've got enough wood, the only time it doesn't work very much if you're working
close to the chuck.
Your blank isn't big enough for doing that, and you haven't got much.
It's when you haven't allowed a parting off point when you start.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I totally agree. Sometimes, let's say you're working with a bit of exotic wood or something, and the proportions need to be basically turning to the chuck jaws, if you like, with having a little tiny bit left in the chuck at the end. That's not the ideal scenario, but sometimes that is the case. So you part off and you've got to sand the whole base, but if you've got that much waste wood at the back, you can part off, as Pete says, you can, maybe 5, 10, 15 mil even, so that you can get down there. You could actually go down sort of halfway. Get rid of all
you can.
I mean,
I tend to go, as I said, 1/4 inch to 1/2 an inch.
Yeah.
Depending on what my outside, the bit that I want it to stand on is the bit that I want to finish with the finished piece.
Yeah.
And the bit that's hollowed out underneath that, the undercut, I can sand that separately out later, and I'm not going to touch the outside edge again.
No, that's right. You just put a finish on it, and that's it.
Now, Susie said, Mike, check the floor underneath the lathe. There is still a second parted off piece on the floor. Now, Susie, Mike is like me. He's got to the point where he's that old. When something hits the floor, he's got to consider whether it's quicker to order a new one off of Amazon or go down and pick it up.
That bit there, Susie, I actually threw on the floor, I think. Anyway, some nice discs there, some nice table mats. So, yeah. Okay. So, are there any more questions or anything else you'd like me to demonstrate? Has everything been answered, to your satisfaction is the main thing, whether it be from me or from the guys here. William has been extremely talkative.
William always is talkative. Yep.
Yeah, he's stole my thunder.
We're only breaking him in. It's all right. He'll get it. Yeah. He's not that shy, really.
Lucy says, "You're not that old."
It's a complete art form.
I wasn't going to say that, William. No, sorry.
Again, apologies for the coughing. Okay. So as far as that's, if everybody's happy with that, that's great. Unless the guys have got something they think might be advantageous to demonstrate, to show, any little nuggets you'd like to share with anybody.
What time are we on? Well,
I think you covered the questions that we had.
No, we're okay for, as long as you want.
There's been no more questions in the chat anyway. So if anyone has any questions, pop them in.
Jerry Dempsey wants to know what
I'm drinking Doombar.
Doombar. If it wasn't Doombar, I'd be worried.
I was drinking. Come on, what was last night? Oh, Abbott's.
Yeah, but you weren't in your workshop there, no?
I wasn't in the workshop. No, in the workshop, I tend to stick to Doombar.
Only when he's not turning, I might add.
No.
Susie said, question. Mike, could you please show us the correct use of masking tape?
Cheeky woman. I don't know. Jeez. Women are getting brave these days, aren't they? Kirsten said, I really enjoyed the format. I really learned something. I hope you and others will do something.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
That was my answer to Lucy.
Yep.
Lucy said,
Susie
said, can I use? Yeah, well, I can actually. I'm always up for. Actually, does anybody know the correct way to tie tape onto something? Yeah. Onto a spinning
object.
Look,
you want to put it on, so you want to put it
on. Masking tape. It'll go anywhere. Masking tape. It'll hang anywhere. You can use them as earrings. But I can't really. I'll have to edit this out because, as Pete says, all manufacturers have banned me from using masking tape on videos.
Yeah.
But
have you seen Terry Bray's comment? I think you should do more of these lives, Mike. And between you and Pete, I can maybe do the occasional one.
He's a boy.
I don't know why you don't do one from Islington. That swimming pool in Islington you showed us the other day.
Yeah, Terry's always trying to get these things.
Yeah, he likes his time away, and I don't blame him. Good on him.
He's dead right
on him. Yeah, damn right.
Good on him.
I blame
him. But I think for. All right, Barry Arndt has said, hello, Barry. What if, when parting off, you used a skew to cut the end grain, that will be the rim of the foot, before using a parting tool? Yeah, wouldn't you get a very smooth rim? Yes, you would.
You
yes, and I quite often will do that on what I said about cutting in that first quarter of an inch, half an inch. Quite often we'll use a skew for that. Don't want to take a skew all the way in because effectively it's a wedge shape. So you can go so far with a skew, but then it becomes a problem in itself.
I won't repeat exactly word for word, but Dave Rothwell has said, it's been a great refresher. Thank you, Dave. Glad you appreciated it. And he soiled himself when he got back on the lathe because he forgot how to use it. And this is from the guy that makes pins for pub Skittles, yeah. Pins, yeah. Great evening, guys. 11 p.m. here. Oh, he's obviously away again. So off to bed, and thanks to both. Okay, Terry, have a nice time,
mate. Terry.
Take care, Terry.
Terry's currently in Cyprus.
Mate.
He's in Cyprus.
Oh, he's in Cyprus.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for popping in, Terry. I hope it's freezing and you got floods. Sorry. No, I'm only joking. No, I'm not. Yeah.
Oh,
so,
no,
oh, no, I'm not. Oh, it's good. As long as everybody's happy.
Matt364 has asked what's my channel, and I've just pasted it in there.
That's okay. Good night, Phil. Thanks very much for coming. Appreciate it. Trisky Wood, hiya and welcome. I've been using iron acetate on walnut. Love the colour. Ah, right.
Iron acetate.
Yeah, something I've never tried.
Is that a similar thing to using vinegar on?
I'm not sure I know what iron acetate is.
Vinegar on wire wool and using wire wool on oak, for example, makes it go black. No?
No.
Yeah, reacted to tanning in the oak, yeah.
That's
not sure what it is now.
No, that's something new to me.
Okay, Chisky, this is colour, so the only person here that has got any idea on colour is Brian. So can you talk to Brian and we'll get Brian to do a demo of it?
What do you want?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Vinegar and wire wool. Vinegar and wire wool. Yeah.
Oh, vinegar and wire wool. So yeah, it is ebonizing.
So basically you're just ebonizing it. Yeah.
But it stinks. You've got to put the wire wool, put 0000 wire wool into vinegar, white vinegar, and just screw the top on the jar and leave it there for.
I really don't know why you would be bothered when there's plenty of.
It does actually give a very nice effect. I've done it a couple of times.
It does
in the early days. Yeah,
it does. It's a real old fashioned. There's chemicals in there for that.
Yeah, but actually with oak, because it's the grain is fairly open to stuff like that. You could actually get away with burning it as well. Just scorching it a bit and then sanding it back. But it gives the whole oak a sort of I don't know. It gives it a nice patina and a nice different colour, aged. Yeah, it's nice.
I've suffered intensely the other week. I did a vase which was cut in order to be coloured.
Yeah.
Sorry, I coloured it 5 times and cut the colour off it 5 times. And it got to the point where I had to keep the colour I finished it with because it was getting that thin that I couldn't cut any more off.
Thanks, Jerry. Sorry, go on. All right.
That's what you get, Pete, for turning to the dark side.
Being so rude to you. Acetate acid is vinegar. All right. Okay. So that makes sense.
That's fine.
Yes. Okay. It's the same as what we would say. Yes. Okay. We just say vinegar and wire wool. Yeah. That's it's a very good process. Thanks, Chris Chisky. Glad you enjoyed it. Thanks for turning up, and the professor. Thank you too. Julian Boger, hi guys. Do you use shine juice? I don't personally. I have made some up. I think you need. Is it Bullseye? Is this Zinsers? Is it Zinsers? It's is it 3, 3, and 3 boiled linseed oil?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shellac and whatever.
Shellac. Zinsers shellac and something else. And
it's like a thing. It's kind of peculiar to America, I think, is it not?
Yeah, but I think it was
not marketed here, but it's an American thing.
Yeah.
But we tend to call it friction polish, and it's very similar.
Yeah.
It'd be the same as our friction polish.
I used to use it when I started turning.
Thank you, Ward.
I've got to be honest, I don't really like the really shiny pieces of wood. I know they sell better, and I could make more money if I did more shiny stuff. I just don't like it.
Thank you, Simon, very much indeed. Thanks, Ian.
As we're not really into selling stuff too much, it's what we like in the Mars.
Yeah.
That's very kind of you, Fred. Does sell. Thank you. Cheers, mate. Glad it was helpful, Simon. Thank you very much. And thanks, Ian, as well.
There you go.
Thanks for coming.
I got to say, this has been a great format, and
I started watching Mike as well. God help me.
Well, there's no accounting for taste, is there?
I know. You're the only one I could find.
Thankfully, I learned how to turn properly before I even knew Mike existed. So,
thanks, Andy. Thanks for turning up, mate. Enjoyed your company. Thank you for coming, and thank you.
Whenever
Alan,
any of us put out a video or a live, if there's a question that we can answer, chuck it in the comments, and we always read the comments, and we will come back to it on the next one. So,
100%.
it's actually helpful to us because we are desperately trying to think of things to do on the lives.
Trying to think of new ideas all the time. Yeah.
So if you ask a question and say, "How do you do this?" that helps us a lot.
It's like, yeah.
Gives you an idea, somewhere to go. There's only so many bowls Colin. And goblets we can turn.
And thank you, Julian, as well, and Robert. Thank you very much indeed. Dave says Fiona wants me to start making pendants and such for craft shows. Good luck with that, Dave. Enjoy, mate. You'll be turning pens next.
I told you not to be swearing tonight. I told you that.
No, it's oh no,
I can't turn pens anymore.
I've got it. I haven't turned a pen for about 10 years, I should think. But
I don't have a pen man drawer anymore. So
yeah, no.
I don't anymore.
I've still got all the gear, but no idea, as they say.
Yeah, I have a pen mandrel, Pete.
Yeah, I got one of those friction ones.
Thanks, mate.
Well, Brian expressed an interest, so I instantly sent him mine. So I can't do it anymore. And Brian can do them all for me.
I made the mistake of saying, "Oh, I haven't turned a pen yet." Whoosh! There was a pen mandrel at my door the next morning.
On the front.
Thank you, Norman, as well, and Martin. Thank you very much. Thanks for popping in. Appreciated it. And thanks to Fred as well. Fred Gilliver. Thank you.
Just to mention,
hold on a minute. How am I?
Brian, you're in my bad books as you completely overlooked me on Friday Night Live with Steve. See?
Fred.
Oh, Joseph King's got a good idea for one of you lads on the next live. Yeah, no, listen. Captive Spheres. Chinese.
Well, I hate to have to tell you this, guys, but the next Sunday Night Live will be me.
Yep. Terry is skiving again next Sunday.
So Captive Spheres for you, Brian.
So Brian is covering, and apparently he's doing Captive Spheres. I gotta say, I have actually done that.
He never choked on his water ball.
They're more captive beads and captive spheres, but I have actually done it.
What, a captive sphere?
Yeah.
What, a box with a sphere in it?
No, I have done a stem, and I've turned a sphere, probably about 5/8 of an inch diameter, and parted that off so that it would float around on the stem. It was a very, very silly idea, and I will never do it again.
Not be happening.
But
won't be happening.
I don't get the concept actually. But there you go. I'm a bit
basically, you turn a sphere on the stem, then you get a small Allen key. You sharpen it up. You make yourself a handle so you can control it, and you cut down through, and then you thin the stem down afterwards.
I see Roger Kent's sense of humour still working.
So it's basically like one of those plate things. It's like one of those plates.
What you be doing,
it goes up. So it's captive, but it does come off.
Yeah. Well, it didn't come off because there's something on top and bottom. So
Mike says he has a captive sphere video.
Yeah, Mike for Dances with Aardvark says he has one. Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to watch that then. Okay.
And likewise.
Thank you. Terry needs holidays, says Robert. Is there any advantage?
The question. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Radio, I always do. It's my show. Radio Face Woodwork says, "Is there any advantage?"
I'm just leaving now then.
Oosby, shut up. Is there any advantage to a negative rake scraper over just holding a straight scraper at an angle? Thanks, Joe. Joe. No advantage, but easier to use, in my opinion. If you have and you said a straight scraper, did you?
Straight scraper.
I think it just means a scraper, which is.
I think it means a standard grain scraper. I think it means.
Yeah. Okay.
I
haven't got any. No, I don't suppose there is.
There is a slight advantage if you are using the scraper for a small job, in as much as you do not need to move your tool rest. If you're doing it with a straight scraper, in as much as there's no negative rake, then you should raise your tool rest and angle the scraper down, which effectively gives you a negative rake.
Yes,
So
it does.
basically they're the same thing.
Yeah. All I'll say is, and again, as I always say, it's my opinion, a negative rake scraper is a much more user-friendly tool.
Correct.
It is less prone to catch.
Sure.
You can catch a negative rake scraper if you really try, obviously. But, you know, at the end of the day, I very often have put a scraper on 45 degrees because as long as you're not scraping, then you're cutting. If you've got the edge at 45 degrees, you are actually shear cutting. And that's what a negative scraper does, really. It's not scraping. You saw the shavings I was getting there. They're not scraping shavings. They're nice, fine angel hair shavings. So the development of negative rake scraping has come on in leaps and bounds in the last sort of 5 years, 10 years. I just like using them, you know, because they're easy to use and they give a really nice finish, minimum sanding afterwards, and that's fine. It's not just kudos. Obviously, if you've got one tool in your hand and you can do the whole job with one tool, that's far better, you know. But as Pete says, does it really bother you that you've got to lift the tool rest to do a normal scraper? It's not going to take much time. But
doesn't take much time, and it depends on what you're doing. And
exactly.
But all these tools have a place.
Yes, indeed, I agree. Oh, Klondike Craftsman, Lewis. If you were doing a resin piece, you wouldn't want to be holding a tool up for the duration.
No, you wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't. No.
But then I don't do resin because
don't do resin.
Well, I do less resin than Mike does.
Yeah, I've still got resin. Still got resin bits here, and there's 2 or 3.
Strangely enough, so have I.
I chucked it in the bin. I started turning it, and after that mess, horrible, and it stinks as well.
It is a strong smell, is right.
God. Yeah. Anyway, but I have the utmost admiration for the people that do some beautiful work with it. But I'm not enough. And the other thing,
I've only ever turned a resin pen. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, I've done that years ago. Yes, but I cast your own resin, and the problem with casting resin is it's so temperature critical. If your workshop isn't the right temperature, like in the winter, it's no point for me. You know, doing it. It's no, and it's expensive as well.
Yeah. You know. So Radioface has said he hasn't seen any real difference in the outcome.
What regarding
he's talking about negative raking and standard scrapers. No. And you're quite right. There is no difference in the outcome. The reason for the negative rake scraper, in my humble opinion, a bit like Mike's, is it's simpler for the turner.
Yes.
Makes it easier.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, we're not here to
that's the long and the short of it.
It is, and if it makes it a better experience for you and a more pleasant experience, why not? You know, you're always going to get different opinions. Somebody.
Oh, is there a good friend who uses scrapers all the time, William?
Tomasic.
There was a question there. Hang on, I missed that. Thank you for all the guys I've missed that have said it's been a good night. As long as it's been informative and you've enjoyed it, we've achieved our goal.
Yep. We've got Anthony Green's asked what's our favourite type of wood.
Yes.
Type of wood is the one that is on the lathe at the moment. I don't have a favourite type of wood. I love turning ash. I love turning oak. I love turning walnut. I really love turning cherry because it smells nice. But whatever's on the lathe is my favourite at the moment.
Whatever's available.
Yeah. The only one I don't like.
I had a favourite. Go on. Mine is you.
Yes. I was going to say my favourite woods to turn, because I've turned a lot of it, is oak, and I love oak burr. I like the challenge of an oak burr and the wonderful things that it produces. Ash and olive ash is my absolute favourite wood, because if you do a bowl in olive ash, and anybody that's done it, you get a perfect surface, but it's got that little bit of a tactile feel to it. It's not perfectly flat, if you know what I mean. It's not because of tool marks. It's the way the wood is, and I love that. And
the structure in the wood changes.
Yeah.
Between the colours.
I'll tell you what, my worst one I've ever turned was 5,000-year-old bog oak.
Yep.
Yeah, her and Lisa turned some as well.
I've turned
no, thank you.
two bits of bog oak. One was a little bit, and I did a long stem goblet with it, and it was sent to me by a guy from Ireland, and it was great, no problem. The last piece I was sent, somebody sent me this massive, a big piece of, and it was horrific. There was black everywhere. It was in my underwear, in my socks. It was everywhere, and I cleaned the workshop, and I still had black everywhere. So
I think it even got into my workshop, actually, Mike.
I'm sure it did. And what were you going to say, Will? What's your favourite wood? No.
Oh, you.
Yeah. Oh, you. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I do like you. The only thing with you is I have to be doubly sure I've got good respiratory filters and so on, because it does affect me. It has
started to affect me now as well.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
I did a live a long time ago with a bit of you. And I remember Mark Beckett saying to me, "Oh, it's only one, you'll be all right." And I thought, yeah, it's only a spindle. I turned a goblet out of you. So I had no respiratory on at all. I didn't have the ceiling filtration on because it shakes the camera because it's on the beams are all joined and everything. And I suffered. I really did.
You paid for it.
I'll never do that again. But
never a good idea.
Have any of us turned bone? A friend told her that honey dippers would be best turned from horse bone. It's neutral in taste for honey. I have turned bone. It was cow bone, not horse bone. I didn't overly enjoy doing it, so I've not done it again.
The best person to ask about that is Heather from Spirit One Woodstone and Bone. She turns bone all the time.
It is, well, she carves it more than turns it. It is quite brittle. It is turnable, but it is quite brittle. And
don't see the point.
It's a bit like I was just going to say, I turned some antler, and apart from the smell,
it stinks.
It stinks. And I did it, and it's like Banksia pods. I've turned 2 Banksia pods. I did a goblet out of one and a little box out of another. And I didn't enjoy turning it. And life's too short, especially for me now. So no, but it's
okay. I've got a little rack at the end of my workshop here, which is bits that I haven't turned yet. When I started, which is getting close to 15 years ago now, I bought a pack of 5 Banksia pods, and there's 3 of them still on the rack.
Oh yeah.
Tells you my opinion on those.
Yeah.
I agree. I've looked at them in the shop a few times and just left them where they were.
Yeah.
No intention to turn the Banksia pod.
Anthony Green says, "Wow, I didn't know that about you." If you look up you in the wood database, it's actually up on the highest toxicity in wood. So
yeah. The other thing with you is you can turn it for years with no problem, and then you will suddenly start to get symptoms.
Yeah,
it builds up. You build up an allergy to it over time. So the more you turn, the more likely you are to have a problem.
And the thing is, with turning any I keep saying this, and I'm not part of the safety police. It's when people, I use the Evolution, and I've used it for years. I used it when it was JSP. It's still made by JSP, I think, just under a different banner. And it, the the filtration qualities of that are not as good. It's THP 302. Whereas the Trend Air Shield Pro, which is extremely uncomfortable to wear, has a higher filtration level. And that people say, well, if you're using that, it's no good for turning hardwoods and so on and so forth. Well, I've been using it. I know I've got a bad chest at the moment, but that's not because of my turning. I don't believe that any filtration system really should be used on its own. It's not so much when you're turning, it's when you're sanding. If you've got good sand dust extraction, filtered HEPA flow dust extraction and air filter in the ceiling, in conjunction with your respirator, that's as good as you're going to get, or nearly as good as you're going to get. You should not rely on the one piece of equipment to do everything. You give it as much chance as possible by getting all the other bits out the air as well. Because what do? We put that on, and as soon as we stop sanding, we take it off. Well, what about all the airborne particles? You know. Anyway.
Susie said, what are the symptoms if you affects you? The first symptoms are respiratory things.
You feel like you've got the flu.
Yeah, flu-like symptoms.
You go on from that, and you will start to get. It will affect you on your skin. So where the dust lands on your skin, you will get
on your skin.
blotches. And I have no evidence for this other than anecdotal. But 3 of the turners I've worked with in the past that developed this allergy to you all died from heart attacks at the age of 50-something. Because they continue to work with you despite having allergies to it. So there's no evidence, but I suspect it can kill you.
Yeah.
Certainly
I think all wood really will have some adverse effect on your lungs. The dust from, whether it be oak, whether it be ash, whether it be pine or whatever. Yeah. If you take enough of it in, if you take all the precautions that you can with regards to respiratory, masks, as well as your dust collection, as well as your air filtration, that's really all you can do. I mean, obviously, when I'm doing lives or anything, the garage door is closed. The air filtration isn't on. So the little bit of turning I've done tonight, there's these little airborne particles that are floating around. But that's just going to be for, a couple of hours. And as soon as I go out, the air filtration will go on for 2 hours and switch itself off. But when you're turning, the doors are open, you give yourself as much ventilation as possible, and don't poo-hoo it, because at the end of the day, it will catch up, but it takes a time. It doesn't happen overnight. So it's like when you turn fence posts and stuff, when it's been creosoted and so on.
No, I shouldn't do it.
Please don't do that.
Exactly. Hey, you what?
Iris Wood Turning has put a comment in. She says that you is particularly an issue for people with heart conditions due to it containing taxane, whatever taxane is. And she studied plant toxicity at university. There you go.
All right. So there you go.
So there's something in it. So.
Well, there is, definitely is. Is not good for you. Don't be eating it, whatever you do.
No. It's like years ago, there was a debate, one of these famous debates on Facebook, where, can you use make a tankard to drink out of? Well, yes, you can. This guy said, I've been using the U tankard for the last 20 years in my workshop, and I'm not dead and all this sort of. That's fine. But why bother when you've got so many other species of wood which are far safer to use? Why do it? Why do it? Just to prove a point, it's silly.
Take advice from people.
I mean, it's not just you. I've known turners, again, that I've known for years, that have turned for years, and all of a sudden walnut will start causing them problems.
Yeah.
If you're turning any wood that causes you breathing issues, a rash, then, you've developed a problem with that timber. Move on. There's plenty of other timbers.
Correct. And if you need to get rid of some you know where to bring it.
Fred Gilliver says the company that I work for used the taxine from the Pacific yew to make a very good treatment for cancer. See, I mean, it's like arsenic and all, other very toxic substances that can be used within a mixture of something to do you good. But it is a formula, People say yew is dangerous to turn. Dangerous is not really the word. You've got to be wary when you're turning it. Take all the precautions you can.
Yep.
Simple as that. And you should do that with all woods.
If you have no symptoms, enjoy the fact that yew is beautiful. If you
it is a lovely wood to turn.
Then your time turning yew is limited. If you start to get symptoms, then it's time to start thinking about turning other stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Same with walnut or any other wood that causes you issues. And
it's like the exotics, isn't it? quite a few of the exotics can have adverse respiratory, and I can't think which one it was. It's one that's supposed to be really quite bad. Now, Carl Jacobson used to turn a lot of this, and it didn't bother him. It just didn't affect him. And he did a lot of demos with it and all the rest of it. Oh, Cocobolo.
Cocobolo, yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people say, oh, Cocobolo, they sort of rank it with you and higher. But certain people it will not affect, or will not affect as badly. I just don't see the point in taking a chance, I love turning you. I've got loads of you here, which I've got to turn. English you, Irish you. And I will turn it, but I will kit up properly when I turn it,
Same as.
Alan Gibbs says monkey puzzle has a bad effect on his breathing sense. Monkey puzzle has a bad effect on me. I hate it.
Yeah,
really?
It's absolute horrible wood to turn.
What's
it's
that, monkey
horrible
puzzle?
wood to turn. Yeah.
Monkey puzzle. I've turned a couple of things only. One I did a nice big bowl. It actually sold in a gallery, and it was perfect. Everything was in a perfect. I don't mean my turning, but the actual figure was perfect.
Well, we knew you didn't mean your turning, Mike.
No, maybe I didn't turn it. I just sold it. Yeah. But again, it's got its downside. Apart from the fact that it's like turning sort of sponge. The center is just like powder, so you've got to take that out. You've got to fill it with CA and all the rest of it. So every wood's got its downside. Like if you're too aggressive with the sanding, you get these minute heat checks,
microscopic checks.
Yeah, which you don't see until you put your finish on, and you think, what the hell's this? And it's only because it's built up heat. And cherry's the same. Cherry gets the same. So the only good thing is it does teach you how to sand properly, because if you sand you and cherry properly, then you can do any wood,
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, every wood's got its up and downside. Yeah. If any wood causes you a particular problem, then consider whether you want to turn that wood again. There's other woods out there.
Dean has just said something which is very valid as well. Laburnum, that's toxic.
Yeah.
But laburnum is lovely to turn, and it's got some beautiful figure in it. I got some lovely bits there, some limbs there. But
I've got a branch over there of it.
Yeah.
Waiting to get turned.
Oh, and black palm as well. Something I've never turned, but yeah. See,
that's
willow.
Not really wood. That's grass.
Yeah, I suppose it is really.
The grass tree.
Yeah,
so Gulliver says
grass rather than a tree. And it's perfectly strong in one direction and it falls apart in the other.
I'm just looking through the comments here. Fred Gulliver says, and very, very, very true. He says, regardless of what wood, you must wear a mask. Quite agree.
Makes sense.
Proper PPE.
You are all responsible for your own safety. And you decide what you want to do for your safety.
Yep. But the recommendation is wear a face mask.
Yeah.
And Lucy's got it wrong. She said, exactly, you only get one pair of lungs. No, Lucy, that's why I had 2 children. I got 2 reserves.
2 reserves. 2 spares just in case.
2 spares.
Actually, there's a little exclusive for you guys, actually. We're talking about wearing masks. Sometimes you want to put your respirator on when you're doing certain jobs. You put your eye protection on, obviously, I was approached by a company, so I don't know where they are, to be honest with you. But years and years ago, about 7 or 8 years ago, a mask came out, which had a very high filtration capability, very comfortable to wear, with replaceable filters. You could wash the mask, etc. And this is the same with this one. I've tried it. It's absolutely brilliant. And it only over here, I think it's about 26 quid with 6 filters, excluding the one that's in the mask. So that's 7 filters, which last a hell of a long time. And replacement filters, 6 is about 18 quid, 19 quid. I put it on and I was doing this is completely aside now. I was doing some repair plastering in our lobby, and I had to sand it down, and I was using my little mouse palm sander to sand it down, and the dust is microscopic. It's far more far finer than we get here on wood. And I wore that thing, and it was covered. I was covered in dust. Didn't affect me at all. Brilliant bit of kit. I'm going to do a review of it actually, and there's going to be a giveaway as well. I'm not using this as a vehicle for that, but I'll just show you it. It's very comfortable, which goes on what, you know, if you're doing certain jobs, you don't really want to put your respirator on. That's all it is. That comes out.
Just a face mask.
And it's just a face mask. Obviously, with the beard, it doesn't give as good a seal as it would without a beard. Like with anything like this, that's why these respirators are great, because it doesn't matter, because it's negative pressure.
Yes,
but the positive pressure. But these are really good, and I was going to use it tonight actually, but I didn't do a lot.
And Collins asked, has anybody turned the wood from a pepper tree? No, I've never turned wood from a pepper tree. Have you guys?
Nope.
No, never heard of a pepper tree.
I'm going to show my ignorance. I've never heard of a pepper tree either.
Nope.
Well, it's been 2 hours, guys. I mean, you know me, I'll carry on for ages, but I think it might be
you still be here in the morning.
Oh.
Talking to you, Mike, you go on and on. And on.
Lewis has just said something there, not effective with the beard for sure. I agree. It is still effective. It's not as effective as it would be, because don't forget the beard filters out a bit of stuff as well. But yeah, any mask like that. The only other one like that I had was from Trend, and that had a rubber inside. And the trouble with that is you sweat and it gets condensation in there.
Yep.
But this thing is brilliant. It's comfortable and easy to use. Anyway, that's by the by. It's just another advantage, you know.
Colin said that the pepper tree is a Spanish tree. I've not turned it, but you've piqued my interest, and I'll have a look for it.
Yeah.
I never heard of it.
I mean, I use the Rutland's belt-mounted positive pressure system purely because the hood, the helmet rather, has got a flip front, so I can flip it up and drink my coffee and then put it back down and get back to work.
And it's very light as well, isn't it?
It's lightweight. When I'm doing a day's turning, when I'm doing lives, obviously it doesn't work.
No.
When I'm doing videos, the mic doesn't work through it. So I don't use it for that. So you never see me using it, but if I'm doing a day's work, proper work, then I've got it on.
Well, that's what intrigued me with this fabric one, is because when I do videos, not that I do a lot of lives, but when I do an ordinary video, I normally, if I'm doing turn, I put my respirator on, and you could hear the shh, obviously.
Yeah.
Because I use a lavalier mic, but that would be better because there's nothing, and it doesn't impede your speech, which is a bit of a shame, I know, Pete, but there you go. So
can't win them all, Mike.
I can still talk.
Can't win them all.
But yeah. Okay, guys, I'd like to thank everybody very much for turning up tonight. Apologies, I haven't done one for a while. It must probably be a while, but hopefully I'll get one done in another month or two when there's a free spot on a Sunday. And we'll do some.
Oh, there'll be a free spot every Sunday.
If it was up to Terry, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Fred Gulliver said, what is worth more, your lungs or the cost of an Air Pro helmet? Well, no, I quite agree. I mean, the Air Pro is just a personal, I don't particularly like it. It's uncomfortable to wear for any length of time. But the cost of the Air Pro and the Evolution or the JSP is virtually the same. There's not much in it. So it's just preference. That's just preference.
Yeah. I use the Air
Find
Pro
a system that works for you. That's the answer.
You use the Air Pro.
Different shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
I mean, I ride motorcycles as well.
Yeah.
And when you buy a motorcycle helmet, there is no such thing as a size, because you go out and size whatever in one helmet is completely different size, same size in a different helmet. You find that one that works for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. And everybody, you ask 10 turners the same question, you're going to get 12 different answers. It's always the same.
Yep.
But just be safe. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much indeed once again for coming, and I'll see you very soon, hopefully. And don't forget, next Sunday, Brian.
Brian next Sunday.
Me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Brian's next Sunday. And
I will be here next Sunday.
He's doing.
I may do one
captive
before. I
spheres.
may do one before then as well.
Are you
And
doing
I'll probably be here annoying Brian at the same time.
I would think so. I hope so. Anyway.
Captive spheres, maybe.
Captive sphere. I don't think.
Okay,
so.
guys. I got to say thank you very much. My pleasure. Thank you, Dave, as well, and everybody else, Anthony, Alan, and everybody else that has come along. And we'll see you very soon. You take care now. Cheers.
Bye, everybody.
Cheers, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.